From the Grind Up with Jeff McClain. Real stories, real hustle, real success.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in From the Grind Up. I'm your host, Jeff McClain. This is a show where we dive deep into the real stories behind the hustle, setbacks, and successes in business and in life. Today's guest, Dave Pisarra, Esquire, which means he's an attorney, and he knows all about the successes and the setbacks in business and in life. And I think that his insight is going to tie in, honestly, greatly to the things that we talk about on the show all the time. So first of all, welcome to the show, and thanks for coming out.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
So you are an attorney. You are a family law attorney specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And then beyond that, you represent... Do you only represent men, or do you primarily represent men?
So I represent 97% men. Like, my brother calls me and his best girlfriend needs something. We're going to do it.
Right.
Right. Like friends and family.
Right.
But the general public, straight men. Because when a man comes into my office, sits down, he's like, we haven't had relations in 5 years. This is over. I want out. What's it going to cost me? How long is it going to take? Here's your retainer. See ya. When she comes in, slightly different story. I want his head on a stake. I want all the kids. I want all the money. I put him in jail. Make him support me for the rest of my life. Be my best friend. Be my fashion designer. Control everything. And I don't have any money. You got to go to him to get it.
Right.
Like, well, okay. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
So that's how I ended up representing men.
So from a business perspective, it obviously just makes better sense, at least in the short term. And just maybe from a moral standpoint, it's like, would you? We're going to dive into all this, obviously,
Sure.
But and I'm going to ask you some statistics, and hopefully I'm not setting you up because I'm assuming you know a lot of these. What percentage of divorces are initiated by women? Would you happen to know?
So there's liars, damned liars, and statistics.
Okay.
But in general, it's about 70 to 80% of all divorces are filed by the woman.
By the woman. And what does a win look like? Because my next question is going to be, what on the opposite side of that spectrum, what percentage of men actually win in family court, right? But what can we define what a win would actually even be?
And this is that's a really difficult question to answer because everybody has their own definitions.
Right.
I'm literally on the drive over here. We've got a filing going on in court this morning for a restraining order to deal with custody, and as soon as that gets filed, she gets the paperwork. Now she's willing to come to the table and negotiate. We're probably not going to get everything we would have gotten from the judge, but we're going to get what we want.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a win.
Yeah.
Client's going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
She's not.
Right. But statistically, I imagine you're kind of, in my eyes, you're the good guy in the scenario because, when I went through a divorce, which we're going to talk about, respectfully and yet in somewhat in depth, hopefully in a little while, I wish there was someone like you. And there was, obviously, it's not like you just started, but I wasn't aware of it. I wasn't aware of you as as an attorney in general. And, to bring up the second part, what I was going to say earlier is not only do you have your law firm, but you also have an online school or an online community where you offer different packages for people that are kind of in that situation, learning to navigate it. Because I can tell you guys from experience, it's terrifying when you're standing there looking at that chasm in front of you and you have no idea what you're doing, and it costs you $1,000 to ask anyone. And they don't even know half the time. So having something like a resource where at least you can get somewhat educated about what you're about to get yourself into is huge. And if I knew about this back then, I certainly would have got involved in. But tell me about that real quick. What is it that you do?
So I've been doing this 27 years. And over the last 27 years, I've seen things change a lot for men in family court. And these days, what's happening is a lot of men are just getting destroyed financially, emotionally, psychologically. And what happens is the battle gets drawn out to the point where he's not got any money left. He's on the verge of giving up, which means that she's going to get the big win, but he doesn't know what to do. So I've been watching this. I've been watching dads go into court and go, Your Honor, I just want time with my kids. I'm a great dad. And they say nothing more. And then they lose because mom comes in and he's negligent, he's angry, he doesn't know how to take care of the kids, he doesn't know their food allergies, he doesn't know their shoe size, he doesn't know, I'm the better parent, give me all the kid. Why? Child support.
No, it's because they want the kids. It's because they want to be around the kids.
It is not at all because they want to be around the kids. It is entirely because all right, 99% of the time.
Let's do that disclaimer. There's always an exception to every rule, maybe, right? But to your point, I think dramatically, most of the time, especially in that place, it's just vindictive. It's just, it's 100%. All financial. The kids they're not something so they can spend time and go on walks in the park. They're a
It's
tool.
all about the ego. It's all about looking good for their girlfriends because then they have to be the primary mom who's sacrificing her life, because then she looks like the big martyr. Awesome. And then dad's paying for everything. Great. And so dads are walking into court going, I'm a great dad. I just want my time with my kids. And the judge is looking at this going, wait a second. I got this laundry list of reasons why you're a horrible human being. Don't know why mom picked you, but that's a separate issue.
Mm-hmm.
And you're telling me you're a great dad. Like, balance that out a little, dude. And so that's why I started dadslawschool.com, was to give guys the tools they need so they can go into court and get the time that they want and that their kids deserve.
Mm-hmm.
And then that turned into my latest book, Dad's Child Custody Action Plan, where I break down a declaration of here's all the stuff you need to tell the judge.
Right.
Like, tell them how you interact with your kids. You know all this stuff.
Unfortunately, yes.
But
I could probably write this book. Right. I'm joking, obviously.
No,
but
I get it.
But I what we talked about this before, and I definitely went the hard way, and I just kept going and going. And I was one of the few guys that just simply didn't quit because I think that, like you were saying earlier, it just usually these things drag on to where the guy finally says, whatever. I just want peace, right? Because I think most men, that's at our core, whether we're talking about business, whether we're talking about current relationships, whether we're talking about divorce, what's it cost to find peace, right? Because we have enough dragons to slay every day in our normal life. It's like, can I just get some peace here? And I think in that environment, that's the difference. Men go in with their tail between their legs, going, I want peace. And
so yeah, I wouldn't say tail between their legs so much as the problem is men are acculturated and raised to never hit a woman, provide, protect. So this is now the mother of your children.
Mm-hmm.
Every bit of your fiber of your being is, I can't attack her.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And yet she's not even going to think twice about like off with his head.
Man. All right, that's it. Thanks for coming to the show. That's, I and of course you've been doing this a long time, and this is, people are going to say you're cynical about it. Of course, as I am. After spending 6 or 8 hours in court, you've spent thousands of hours in court. So how could you not be, right? And when you see, would you say that, backing up to like, I always try to be reasonable, pragmatic. Why is it like this, right? I always ask myself this question. And would it be fair to say that the intentions weren't this? Maybe it was lopsided at one point in time, and men had the upper hand and were kind of, leaving their wives and running off with their secretaries, and their poor housewives had nothing didn't know any better, and so the government comes along.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Reagan said the scariest 9 words in the English language, right?
I'm
from the government and I'm here to help.
Yes.
So they came in and said, don't worry, we got this. Let's just kill him, instead of finding like some sort of happy medium. But would that be fair to say? And I don't know historically, but it just makes sense.
You're very much correct in that, prior to like the 1970s, really, the kids would normally be given to dad because dad had the income. And the thinking was, he'll be able to provide for the kids. But along came welfare, feminist rights, changing the situation. All of a sudden, no-fault divorce pops in. Oh, I can get divorced now easily? Great. I'll get divorced easily, take the kids. Oh, but I can't afford to support them. He's got to support me. So that's when the child support system came into play. So now it's a money play.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we've got a government structure, always a good thing, sarcastically,
of course,
to enforce that. We get the federal level, we get the state level, we get the feds paying the states, reimbursing them. And we've got all these lawyers who are busy collecting and enforcing all of this, all these social workers who are there to like help make sure that the kids are well taken care of.
Right.
Let's do it for the best interest of the children.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are we really incentivizing that? We're really incentivizing single motherhood, get dad out of the program, make that a source of revenue for the kids.
And replace dad with the government to raise our kids. Because if you're a single mom, now you got to work.
No.
Okay.
We just want dad out. The government doesn't want to raise your kids.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to make sure you're paying for her to raise your kids.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's funny you would say that. One thing that one of my many lawyers that I had during my divorce, I think I went through 4 of them, said to me, because I was like, this is this. And, you know, on paper, I'm like, this should be great. And he's like, you have to understand, they don't care about right and wrong. They care about what's going to cost the government less.
Correct.
That's what he told me. And I was like,
correct.
I mean, that was almost 20 years ago, and I still remember it like it was yesterday, because it was like, man, because I think people go into it thinking, well, you know, and maybe to the judge's defense, maybe you can speak on that. Like, I never once got mad at the judge, you know, and it didn't always go my way back and forth. And I'm like, there's 20 more of our stories about to get put in front of this happened to be a female, this lady, and she's got to make a split decision that affects all of our lives with this much information, and she just got to drag around this big hammer and go, boom, your life is destroyed and yours is not. Next. And like, I mean, the volume I imagine that they have to deal with is just insane.
Figure 20 cases a day, 5 days a week.
Wow. Yeah. So
that's like a good number.
Right.
Like here in LA County.
Right.
Like that's when I go in and like look at the docket, like that's what it's going to be. Like 20 to 30.
And how much time do you think they spend, you know, because you do your, you know, what would you call that stuff? I don't remember anymore.
So we do our briefs, we submit our declarations, and we tell our side of the story to the judge in papers, which is, again, why it's so important for dads to like go into court and have their paperwork ready. That's why we do the declaration, because that's the first impression you're going to make with the judge is in your paperwork. Mm-hmm. It's not when you walk into court. Yeah. People think, oh, I'm going to walk in and have my hair combed and a nice fresh shirt. No. They already have an opinion of you from 2 days ago when they were looking at the file.
So the judges literally read through all of that stuff and partition in their mind somehow, one case after the other. I mean, again, they're only human. So, I mean, I'm sure it starts to just bleed together over time, because I imagine most men say the same thing, most women say the same thing. And it's an impossible situation, to be honest, for a judge, in my opinion.
I think you're 100% right in that. And yes, I think the best judges, and there are a lot of really, really good, dedicated judges who really spend the time and they really do know the cases and they really dive in. Because the thing to remember is this. Let's take 100 cases. 70 of those, maybe they're going to be in court one time. Mm-hmm. They're basically normal human beings. They're going to work out their relationship. They're going to come to some agreement. Yeah, she kind of extorted him to like strong arm him into taking something he didn't really want, but they're going to live with it. Mm-hmm. They're not going to come back to court every other week. 20% of the cases, you're back in court like every 4 months. Mm-hmm. And like 10%, it's global thermonuclear war. Mm-hmm. Like it's the super high conflict craziness. So like 70% of the cases, the judge is like, this looks great. They're signing off. I'm done.
Right.
20%, I got to put some effort in. 10%, I really got to figure out what's going on here because someone's got a psychological problem that's driving this. And then we got to figure out like, okay, who is it? Now what do we do about it? Now how do we protect the kids as best we can in this situation?
Right.
You know, I've got some judges in LA County where, this one judge, I love him. I walked into chambers with him one time with the other lawyer, and he gets up from his desk and he turns, and in the back of his belt, he's got a honking like Smith & Wesson.
In court?
In court, yeah.
Oh, wow.
He's packing in court.
Yeah, I imagine
like,
you probably feel like you're in danger sometimes when you're delivering death blows to human beings all day long.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. But he's a judge who's super dedicated. He's adopted kids out of the foster care system. He and his husband are amazing human beings. He reads every piece of paper I put in front of him, and he can memorize it. Like I'll be arguing with him, and he'd be like, but Mr. Pisarra, 2 months ago, you said this in this declaration. I'm like, I don't remember that. How do you remember that?
Wow.
He's an amazing guy.
Yeah, good for him. So, you know, the cliche, what people assume, myself included, is, you know, and I think most women also, that they're going to win most of the time. They're going to get what they want most of the time. Men are walking in with the deck stacked against them most of the time. Is that fair, or is that just And you know what the funny thing is, like, I know a lot of dads that shouldn't have their kids. Right? Know of, and I'm sure you do too. Or I know a lot of moms that are much better for their kids than the men that they chose to have children with.
Right.
Once, twice, three, however many times, right?
Exactly.
That's the part that makes you go, he was like this his whole time, you know?
Yeah.
But
exactly.
like, again, those are the guys that ruined it for the rest of the guys, right? The ones that genuinely. Okay.
I don't know that I would agree with that.
Okay.
Because I put so much of this back on the women and the way that they're playing games to manipulate the system. You know, a woman's greatest strength is her ability to play a victim. You know, she can walk into court and cry on cue. She's definitely making the odds in her favor. No doubt.
Does it help if a guy cries on cue?
I never recommend that.
Mm-hmm.
I've had it happen. And with the right judge, yes.
Mm-hmm.
With the wrong judge, it's going to just go against you.
Right. Okay. And that was serious and a joke at the same time, because it's like, yeah, that most of the time that doesn't have the weight that it has on the other side. You know, like, what's wrong with this guy? Versus, oh my gosh, you know, poor person here. So, what are some basic mistakes that you think that men typically make? You know, like from the onset of this, whether it be from, and you're probably going to say getting married in the first place. Go ahead, start with that.
I'm dying to say it. Like,
all right,
don't get married.
So, yeah.
Your first mistake, get married.
Okay.
Second mistake, having a kid with a woman. Bad idea. So we have the technology to not do this these days. And trust me, you can bank sperm, you can get an egg, you can hire a surrogate, and yes, it's going to cost you like $25,000, $40,000. That is nothing compared to what it's going to cost you with child support, attorney's fees. She gets angry and decides like all of a sudden you're abusive, domestic violence restraining order. Now you don't get to see your kids unless it's with a supervised visitor. Then you've got to have anger management classes, parenting classes, co-parenting classes, batter's intervention classes. Don't have to keep it
government. Solutions.
Well, private contractors.
Right, but private contractors coordinated via the government, right? It's assigned
Correct.
via the government,
Correct.
Right?
Social Worker Full Employment Act.
So, being a fan of the nuclear family,
Yeah.
being a traditional person myself,
Mhm.
however, having been through, you know, that I'm probably my stuff was probably between that 20 and 10%, somewhere in the middle, because I was never a willing combatant.
Right.
I was always there, you know, but I never went vicious or anything like that. So I think the thermonuclear thing kind of needs both parties, but you know. I get why you're saying what you're saying, but is there a solution somewhere in the middle? I mean, what do you do? You know, here's an example, and it was one of the times that I got probably closest to actually crying myself in court, and it had nothing to do with me. There was a couple in front of us. You know, you're just sitting there watching everybody else's crap for half the day before you get to go put your crap out there, and the guy was bawling, and he was a very religious man, and he had a wife who was, you know, young, beautiful lady, and he was just like, I don't believe in this. We promised not to get divorced. I love her. I don't want to be. And she was just dressed scantily, just like something had happened
to
her, you know? And he was just pleading. And the judge, you could tell, felt for him, but the judge was like, it's
no
happening,
fault divorce.
dude. There's nothing.
It's no fault divorce. Like, it's going to happen.
Right.
You know, I had that situation last year. I had a extremely devout Catholic couple. But her childhood trauma of being molested reared its ugly head in their relationship. And she was like, I need to get a divorce. And she wanted to take their daughter and move out of state. And we were there, and the judge is granting the divorce because everything's been completed and it's no fault state. Like, you're going to get a divorce, man. Any old reason will do.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in that same situation because he was like, she's going to burn in hell.
Mm.
I don't agree with this. Her eternal soul is going to burn in hell. And I have no like opinion on that. Like, I don't know.
Right.
But he was going through that.
Yeah.
And so we do have that.
And he felt compelled to protect her even from herself. You know, as a husband, you know, we commit to that.
Absolutely.
And then when that person goes off the rails, it's like, that's one of the 1,000 places that, you know, religion and government don't work together.
Absolutely.
You know?
You asked what are the mistakes men make going into court, and one of the biggest mistakes they make is they hold on to that role of white knight. They hold on to that Prince Charming thing that they're still going to protect their family and protect her as she's attacking him. And the problem is that if you don't stand up for yourself in court, which many times can feel as if you're attacking her, and there's ways to do it where you're not actually attacking her, you're pointing out to the court what the problem is. If you don't do that, the judge is going to rule against you. I had a case. Mom had gone from being your standard corporate employee, and she was still young and pretty, and decided that she was going to move out of state and go become an OnlyFans person. Okay, great. Fabulous. Great way to make money. Very happy for you.
The opinions expressed on this show do not always constitute. No, I'm sorry. That's my disclaimer. I'm just kidding. But
I had to argue in court that my client wasn't opposed to her becoming an OnlyFans actor. It was he wanted to make sure that the child wasn't going to be exposed to any of that, because that could negatively impact the child if it was around the child. And so that's how you can use things you don't have to attack the other side, but you have to point out to the judge what the issue is. Right. And I had to talk him into doing that. He didn't want to. You can't say that. I know she's doing that, but you can't. I'm like, dude, we have to. We're never going to win if we don't.
Right. And it's true.
Yeah.
How is your kid going to not be affected by being exposed to either certainly the actual content, but if there's people around that are part of that, and who would want a child around that? I mean, it makes perfect sense.
Lots of my clients' ex-girlfriends. Strippers and OnlyFans have been great for our business.
Yeah,
Sorry.
See,
I'm gonna throw you curveballs, dude.
Yeah, I love it. No, this is already being a lot of fun. But you just said girlfriends, right? And so you said earlier, don't get married, which I understand you're the point of that. But these are guys that weren't married.
But what did they do?
Oh, the second part of that was don't have a child with a woman. Right?
There you go. See, I figured this one out.
So if you do neither of those things, you're pretty secure, I guess, in some sense.
If you want to have a future, if you want to be able to retire someday, if you want to be able to raise a kid and raise them in the peace that men want, and raise them and teach them the lessons that you want to teach them, and set the boundaries and discipline and create an actual productive human being who isn't going to end up in jail, end up on drugs, end up on the pole, end up in a gang doing things that they shouldn't be doing. The truth of the matter is, if you're a man who's driven in that direction, the safest bet is to either adopt, have a kid by surrogacy.
Again, as a traditional husband, father, man, Christian, I absolutely understand what you're saying, and it's the safest bet in what you're saying. But what does that do to society in 50 years? Meaning,
honestly,
moms and dads aren't cohabitating and taking care of their kids and living that type of life.
Honestly, I think if more men did what I suggested, it's the counterbalance to the feminist dogma of what's happening in our society. It's an absolutely necessary counterbalance.
So you're not. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because the single mom dogma of I don't need no man and I can raise a kid just as good or better than with a man. Great, go ahead. You go do that. Studies show you're not that successful.
Right.
Your kids end up on drugs, on the pole, in jail, in problems. Kids raised by single dads, equivalent to raised in a two-parent household. As a single man, you can raise a kid better than a single mom, and the studies bear that out.
For sure. Yeah, I don't disagree. And I would tell you my ex-wife would probably agree. Not that she didn't want to murder me where I stood, at that time, but I think now she'd probably the influence I've had on my kids has been great.
Right, because that's what men bring. It's what men bring to parenthood. It's that the joy, the exploration, the testing boundaries, the accountability, the show up when you don't want to show up. Do what you have to do. Whether you want to or not isn't relevant. What do moms always do? Oh, you don't have to go to school today. Well, he's got a stomach ache. He doesn't feel good. Here, have some apple juice. What's dad going to say? Walk it off. Buck up.
Rub some
go
dirt
outside. Rub some dirt on it. Go clean the garage. Like, go do something.
Right. We talk about that on the show all the time with all kinds of different guests, just feelings, emotions, you know, how they're real, but men handle them in a much different way. You know, men go, yeah, I don't feel like going to work today, but I'm going to anyways. I don't feel like doing this thing, this responsibility I have, but I'm going to do it anyways. I think men are more definitely more disciplined in that aspect than women. Women are typically more
indulgent.
Right. Guided by their emotions versus guided by the discipline, guided by
I don't know that guided
principles.
is the word I would use, but yes.
Okay.
I mean, I would say that, you know, a woman will more.
I think indulge is great. That's exactly right. They indulge in those. There may be things that I want to do in the world, but because of my own discipline and commitments to myself, I don't do them, right? Where I think women indulge in those.
Absolutely.
I think I want to tell my husband he's an asshole.
Right.
Even though he's not. But I'm going to say it anyways, right? Where, typically, men tend to go, I'm going to go ahead and not say that because you can't put that toothpaste back, right?
Exactly. And I say that the reason why we're like that is because we learn team sports. We learn how to moderate our behavior within a team. We learn A, how to show up, but B, how to figure out, like, is it safe for me to actually allow this emotion out right now?
Mm-hmm. Right. I talk about that all the time because two men, if you and I are having this conversation and we disagree and we start disagreeing even further and we start raising our voices, we both know as men that eventually
you're going to kick my ass.
There's something physical is on the table, right?
Right.
Where a man and a woman, you know, as it should be, being, again, in my beliefs, I would never lay my hands on a woman.
That's a mistake.
We'll talk about that. But she knows that going in, right? So, like, meaning a woman.
And think about how empowering that is.
Right.
If I know I can hit you and I don't have any consequences, it's completely just free reign.
Right.
I'll do whatever I want.
Right.
But because I don't have that privilege, I have to know.
Right.
Like, if I'm going to swing, if this body is going to swing on that body, I'm doing the calculus of, am I going to be able to take him out?
Right.
Because when he comes back at me, it's not going to be good. And I have to do that calculus all the time.
And that's what men, you know, I think subconsciously, every man I meet, I do that in 10 seconds. Not on purpose. I think we all just size each other up. You know, that's just, I think, how we're wired. You know, that's how we deal with one another, you know, and then where, again, I think when it's women or a man and a woman, to your point, you know, but to your point that she knows with few exceptions that there's no boundaries. Right.
But it's also who's living in the real world then? I'm living in the real world with you.
Correct. Right.
I know I have to, like, toe the line at some point.
Yeah.
You know, which is probably why lesbians have the highest rate of domestic violence. Heterosexual couples have the middle. The lowest is 2 gay men.
Makes sense. Yeah. They're still men.
We're gonna work it out.
Right.
We work stuff out.
So, you know, I get your point, and on the marriage thing, and even on the nuclear family thing. But is the easy answer, and I guess the one that you have some limited control over, is what you're saying. You know, hey, just don't get married, and this. You know, you're going to be safe from these pitfalls of life.
Right.
Would it be equally as successful, equally as effective, if there was some actual change in the law? So that's a big fish to fry, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think the law has to change that much, truthfully, because the way the laws are written, they're written very gender neutral. That's not the problem. The problem is the dynamics between men and women in relationships. Like the woman who wants to be the traditional wife up until the point where she's, like, done with him and his dirty socks in the bathroom floor. all of a sudden now she's like, oh, I'm a strong, independent feminist who wants to go out and take care of the world, but give me half the assets because I contributed to them by making sure the house was dust free. Right? Mm-hmm. Where we're going to see change over the next 20 years realistically is as women have come into the workforce and are now having to start paying alimony. Mm-hmm. Because you've got college educated women who are now marrying men who are not, from their perspective, their equals. And then when they break up, suddenly she's got to give him half the assets that she worked for.
Right. So
no. Yeah. That's my money.
So it's not that the men have to pay. It's the most successfully financially has
Correct.
to pay. And traditionally that's the man.
Correct.
So it seems men, but like you're saying that there is a shift in that to some degree. And then once it goes the other way, everyone's going to go, oh, time out. This isn't right. This isn't fair.
The women are then something going to be like, wait, we got to stop the spousal support crap. Like,
right. He can go get a job,
Oh, they love to say
she
that.
couldn't.
Yeah. And frequently, when the guys are entitled to spousal support, they won't take it.
Yeah.
I've had to strong arm guys into taking the money. Mm-hmm. And they're like, I don't need it. I'm like, yes, you do. Because you have to pay for an apartment. You have to pay for daycare. You need to take care of your kid. You need to have funds available. You need to have that support. It's not about you. Mm-hmm. It's about your kids and what you can provide for them. And that's why child support and alimony are important.
So you said early on, that, women, and I feel terrible. I shouldn't say I feel terrible, but this is not a woman bashing situation. Though I guess it kind of is, because if we're looking at statistics, right? There's always an exception to everything. But mm-hmm. I think you alluded, for the most part, when a father and a mother, let's just say, whether they're married or not, walk into court, he's looking for peace. He's looking for, okay, I made some, this didn't work out. Wish her the best. I just want to move on with my life. And there's exceptions, but that's, I think, a fair statement for most men. And she's looking for
revenge.
Regardless. Even if she's the one that cheated, she did whatever, all those things, which I know none of that even matters in court for the most part. But statistically, they make themselves the victim, even if that's not the case.
What did I say earlier? A woman's greatest strength is her ability to be a victim.
And what was the second part? I'm sorry.
Her greatest strength is her ability to be a victim.
Right. Wasn't there two parts of that when you said it earlier?
No.
That was it? Just okay. So a woman's greatest strength is her ability to be a victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know I come across as very like anti-woman and women bashing. I get that. I get that a lot.
Right.
I would disagree with that, because there are many women in my life who are strong women, who have solid marriages, who are good partners to their husbands. They're excellent mothers. And they don't play games. Mm-hmm. The best boss I've ever had in my entire life was this very direct female. I always knew exactly where I stood with her. Never once did I have any doubt. Mm-hmm. She's the easiest person to ever work with. Because it was just, I need this, this, and this. I need it by here. I'm like, okay.
So it's basically like society has created this, right? I mean, because it's not that
women's gender studies have created this stuff, and it's a nightmare.
Right.
It's an absolute nightmare.
Because it's not even a thing of like maybe they're wired that way, though maybe they are to some degree. But when it's rewarded, when it's Pavlov's dogs, like when they get the same result every time they do a certain thing, and the same would be for if it was for men, and we would figure out a way to work that system as well. But because the rewards are there, and I guess we probably have rewards too. When we make good money, we get good women. When we or whatever, so like we understand there's ways in which we navigate this earth, mm-hmm. right? And that has been rewarded from, like you said, in the 70s or pre-70s, that didn't matter. And then it was like, let's fix this. And then it was like, they learned to work that. Gender studies became a thing, or things like that. And now society's set up in a way where, and who loses in all of this?
Everybody loses. The men are losing because they're having their role as a father taken from them. They're having their role as a husband taken from them. The women are losing because now they're having to take on they're taking on a role that used to be a man's role, and then they're complaining about how much work it is, and they're then using that as the excuse to get rid of the man in their life rather than just giving him back the role he should be playing. The kids are destroyed because the kids aren't getting the proper discipline, boundary setting, exuberance, joy, fun that they should be getting from both parents. And I think what we're going to see over the next 20, 50 years is a real breakdown in our society because of all of this stuff. And it's just, it's getting worse faster.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of this conversation is tongue in cheek, if you will, and we're kind of having fun with it, but it's true, right? Like that's what you just said is a scary thing, right? It's like, how do we save society if that's what's happening, you know, because the children, right? 20 years from now, when they're adults, likelihood of them mirroring and repeating exactly what they were.
Married. They're not going
to get married.
You know, most of the kids in your kids' age group are not going to get married. It's going to be under 50%. They'll have kids with each other, which is its own craziness, and there's all kinds of problems with that. But they're not going to get married. And partly that's because women who go to college want to marry a man who's been to college and has a greater earning potential and is taller and has a greater degree. So if she's got a BA, she wants someone with a master's. If she's got a master's, she wants a PhD. Hate to tell you, you're getting into some pretty rarefied air there for the men.
Right. Right.
And so now what you're having is you've got these college educated women who are going to be like, there's no one for me to marry. Well, you created that.
Right. Where have all the good guys gone?
They walk away from good guys.
Right.
I mean,
and good guys walk away from them. And
wisely.
Right. That's what I mean. Like a guy like me, I think we talked about it briefly at lunch, is like, that is in no way attractive to me at all. Some, you know, hyper successful, you know, and not that there's necessarily fundamentally anything wrong with that. My daughter is very ambitious, but she's also not that. She wants a good man to take care of her, and like that's what she wants. But she's also capable in what she's doing. That's great to compliment him, right? But that whole I don't need a man thing. You're exactly right. It's you know, you come off against marriage and against women and all that stuff because that's what's in front of you.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to change society? What are you supposed to change?
Dude, if you saw my TikTok feed or my IG algorithm, like the number of videos that get fed up to me of women who are embarrassing good men for the likes and for the laughter, I'm looking at them going like, he didn't do anything wrong. Like, I'd marry that guy. What the fuck's wrong with you? Like, he's a good solid guy. He wants to work 40 to 60 hours a week, come home, have a couple beers, slam it out over the weekend, and go and enjoy his kids.
Right.
Okay, I'm in.
So, again, being a guy I'm still holding on to my fundamental conservative view in life. And to your point of like this next generation, you know, less than 50% of them or of that generation are likely going to get married.
Right.
Me, as also being an entrepreneur and a strategist, if you will, I'm going, cool. The ones that do are going to be so much better off. And maybe I'm completely crazy, you know, but I still have that maybe you'll call it naive, but I still have that feeling like, okay, but if they get it right, because yes, statistically, if you get married and you get divorced, you're screwed. But what about if you don't? You know, would you say, and statistically, or maybe you don't know, and is if someone gets married young and has a good life and has the good boundaries and builds businesses and does things, their level of happiness, their level of satisfaction, their level of the way that their children come out, all of those things, is that not statistically come out better than the other?
100%.
Right.
If you can find a good person who's stable and has a good head on their shoulders to marry, do it. That's a big ask.
Right.
You know, I was telling you about my friend who he met this woman and all of his friends was like, she's amazing. She's awesome. She's got a good, solid sense of reality on her shoulders. She's cultured. She's educated. She's emotionally aware. Like, she's not playing the games. We were all behind him getting married.
Right.
Yeah. I'm just, my warning to men is be very, very careful about who you marry, because it will be a global thermonuclear bomb in your life, financially, emotionally, physically. I mean, the stress of divorce, the stress of family law is horrific. You know, I've seen people go off the deep end. I regularly, probably once a week, I get a DM from some guy who is, I can't take this anymore. I'm just going to check out. Like, that's a regular occurrence in my life.
Right.
Like, when you get that on a regular basis, yeah, you get a little,
Yeah.
like, what's wrong with you guys? Like, stop this.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right. So it's not marriage in principle that's the problem. It's the way in which the dissolution of marriage is handled in our society.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think if you come from certain populations that have a greater understanding of what a relationship really is and what marriage really is, and the culture around it is teaching the lessons that marriage is not one long honeymoon.
Mm-hmm.
It's a honeymoon. That's 30 days. You get 30 days.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, it's life. Like, you're going to have to deal with the other person and their bad behavior and their crankiness and their bad breath in the morning and their dirty socks on the bathroom floor. And, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And you've got to commit to that stuff. And people have a real problem committing.
Right.
I mean, I've often said that, we should probably go back to fault-based divorce, because I think we need to have some boundaries on our behavior. Like we're not the first generation of humans that have ever thought, like, it'd really be kind of nice if I could just sleep with whoever I wanted to. Mm-hmm. Like, that did not come to us in the 70s. It's been around forever. Mm-hmm. But we've recognized previously that that's not what makes good families. That's not what makes for a good life. Mm-hmm. A good life requires discipline and boundary setting and saying no to things.
Right.
You don't get to say yes to everything.
Yeah, that's discipline ties into everything and every aspect of life. If you want to have a fit body, discipline. If you want to have a good relationship, discipline. If you want to have a business, discipline. That's the key ingredient. But how do you legislate discipline?
A fault-based divorce, I think, is one. Right. I think as a society, we need to get away from this, for lack of a better phrase, OnlyFans mentality of, dating apps and just, kind of like on-demand everything.
Right.
People have to really recognize that long-term relationships, if you want a long-term relationship, you have to commit to those moments, sometimes months, sometimes years, when it sucks. I'll give you an example. I've known my law partner since our second day of law school. We met in, I think it was real property. That's 1992. So we're 34 years in as friends and partners. That has not been a completely smooth ride.
Right.
There were moments where I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm putting in more effort. I'm not getting enough out of it. He doesn't respect me enough. I'm just like in every relationship, you have moments where you're like, why am I doing this? And you have to be willing to commit to the long term to get past the rough spots. And in today's world, it's like, oh, rough spot. I'm leaving. I'm out. Gone. Goodbye. Here, I'm just filing. I'm done. You need to pay me now forever. Like, what is that BS?
Right. Is that, that's a good segue into the conversation of like a prenuptial agreement, right? Because I have a prenuptial agreement in my current marriage, and my wife's going to kill me, but that's probably kept us married.
Yes.
And it's
not the agreement itself that did it.
Right.
It was the conversation around it beforehand. Right. It was being able to have that uncomfortable conversation of, I love you, but we need to talk about money. And like, people don't like talking about money.
Right.
It's very uncomfortable for people to talk about money.
Right.
And particularly when somebody feels that they're entitled to it for no reason other than just, I said I do.
Right. So is that a I've heard a lot of people talk about, an example with a prenup is like, hey, without a prenup, either way you're entering into a contract, right?
Well, everybody has a prenup. It's called the family code.
Correct. It's written by the
If you don't,
right.
you have the family code. That's your prenup. If
Right.
you don't actually come up with some other agreement,
Right.
it's not well written. It's very clear. You're going to give up half your stuff that you acquired during marriage. So during marriage, you buy a house, buy a boat, buy 2 cars, build a business. On divorce, half of it's yours, half of it's hers.
Right. So if you're okay with that, then just do that.
Game on.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And if you're not, and again, prenups, especially, you know, talking, if a young couple wants to get married, it's like, well, we need to talk about a prenup. It's like, oh, I can't believe he brought that up, or if she brought that up, maybe. But I think it's a very mature way to handle something like that. Like, hey, the prenup doesn't necessarily say I get everything, you get nothing. It's
Right.
What does it say, right? Then you talk through it and you figure out what seems reasonable, and that's what you agree on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So that makes
because it's a contract that's negotiated, and you both have your own lawyers, and you've talked about this. The process is the real value, because you're stress testing the relationship of, can we have hard conversations? Because if one party just folds in a hard conversation, that's not healthy. Right? If I just always give in to the other side, eventually I'm going to be like, I'm done and I want out. Or the other side's going to be like, they have no backbone. I'm done. I want somebody that's going to be interesting.
right.
So it's that stress test of, how are we going to actually work through tough things to see what the future is going to hold.
Right.
And if you want to put something in there about, I've seen weight clauses. I've seen clauses on, no cheating. I've seen clauses where they're allowed to cheat if it's it's beyond 50 miles.
Right. But that's theirs.
But that's what they agreed to.
2 consenting adults agreed to
Right.
to just like I do in business every day. Just like, if 2 consenting adults, this is what I expect to get out of this. This is what you expect to get out of this. It'd be great if we could just be like, we love each other and I want to get married and right off into the sunset as it was intended. But there's just too many variables these days,
Right.
and it's frankly foolish, for both sides.
It is. And, people need to have those hard conversations about what do they really expect in marriage. One of the biggest problems that people come to me for is there's money issues. One party's spending too much, one party's not earning enough. That's always an issue. Then there's the relationship, the bedroom death. Like we're no longer having intimacy. It's been 5 years. We're in our 30s. What's wrong? How do we fix this? One party doesn't want to fix it. Okay, now it's time to get out. But you should have those conversations beforehand of, what are the expectations going into marriage? Okay, if you decide that you don't want to be intimate with me anymore, does that then give me free reign to go find something somewhere else without blowing up our family unit? I've seen that happen.
Yeah, that's obviously fringe type conversations for sure, but better than blowing up our family unit, like you just said.
Well, it's interesting you say it's fringe, because it's not fringe in the gay community. It's one of the reasons why gay marriages are so successful, is because they have uncomfortable conversations. Not uncommon for a gay male couple, married, property, dog is the kid, maybe they actually have kids. And they've talked about what are the parameters of outside a relationship adult play. Can't do that in most heterosexual relationships. You can't do that.
Yeah, that, and again, that's doesn't tie in. I think most heterosexual marriages, a substantial amount of them at least have a religious component to that, and that's what guides it in general. So that simply just doesn't fit in that. Though I understand it, I'm also a free. I believe in freedom, so people are free to have that agreement with two human beings if they want to do great. But for a traditional marriage, obviously that wouldn't work.
Right.
But it is what it is. So a couple other things. I remembered what you said earlier, and we're kind of past the joking part, but I still think it was a good point that you made earlier when we were talking. When I said that, wasn't there 2 points to that? It was, you were talking about the reason when a man gets married and when a woman gets married, what they're thinking. And I think you said, please go ahead.
So when a man gets married, he's hoping she doesn't change. And when she gets married, she's hoping he does change. Because women like to marry a project and then fix it. And then when they fixed it, he's not what she married. So now she's unhappy and wants to get a new one.
Right. Which ties in, what we talked about on that was just masculine and feminine roles in relationships, and how, we may come at it from a different angle, but I think we fundamentally agree on that, a woman who has a masculine man early on in the marriage oftentimes says, well, he just needs to be more sensitive. He just needs to listen to me more. He needs to, watch The Notebook with me, whatever, these types of things. And for a masculine man, it's like, I don't want to do any of those things. But then he goes, well, she really wants me to, so I guess I'll watch this movie. I'll sit there and cry on the couch with her. I'll do all this. And over time, she starts to resent the very thing that she helped build.
Right. And part of that's because he's not coming back to her with a counteroffer. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, okay, we'll watch The Notebook.
Well, yeah, it's one thing to watch The Notebook,
right?
As a husband, it's a whole other thing to actually enjoy The Notebook.
True. But we're back to commitment, and in relationships, you're going to do things you don't enjoy.
Right.
Right? Like, it's not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
We're bordering on the edge of coercive control here, by the way, which is the new standard for domestic violence. It's flowing across the country. It's a freaking nightmare. But most men won't come back to her and say, okay, like, we're going to do what you want to do, and that's great. I'm fully on board with that. But we need some adult playtime too. And they're not willing to push that if that's an element in their relationship. Mm-hmm. And if it's not happening, he's just going to suffer, and then he's going to get bored, and then he's going to want out.
So then they both get bored.
Right.
She's trying to, emasculate him because she wants a girlfriend. Mm-hmm. He's trying to make her his girlfriend. They both want a girlfriend, I guess, is a fair thing to say.
Yes.
Right. Yet neither of them get that.
Right.
Right. That's an interesting dynamic for sure.
Yeah.
But still the answer is in my opinion is a man needs to live in his masculinity. And I talk about it all the time on this show and on some of my content, is like, masculinity doesn't mean violence. Right. Masculinity doesn't mean aggression. Masculinity doesn't mean...
No, it means assertiveness. And this is something I talk about in the book, and I talk about in the VIP program with my guys, is teaching them there's anger when you walk into court, there's assertiveness. Mm-hmm. And the assertiveness is, this is what I'm asking for, this is why I need it, and this is how it needs to play out. If you have another thought on that, please share it. Mm-hmm. Being assertive is putting your needs into the relationships, into whatever the dynamic is, which is what frequently doesn't happen in those relationships that end up dying, because as soon as he's assertive, now he's angry, controlling. Yeah, exactly. I mean, clearly you know what I'm talking about.
Well, it's funny because, again, come with my background, and I'm not a cynic in the sense of I got married a couple years after I got divorced. So I didn't completely lose faith in my fundamental beliefs on marriage as a rule. But I didn't walk. I limped out of it, right? And I limped into the next one with the better understanding, which is why it was okay. We got to get a prenup. We need to have the hard conversations that the 21-year-old me didn't have, right? And so I think there was an education there. But I still believe the answer, as impossible as it really is traditional gender roles. That's my belief. And if everybody just did exactly what I think they should, everything would be great, right? But of course, that's not going to happen. But what are your thoughts on that? Meaning, in a marriage, if they go into it with the right intent, and she does what she's agreed to do, and he does what he's agreed to do, everything should be fine.
Right. With the caveat that people change over time, and so you do need to have a mechanism and an understanding that things will get renegotiated. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. It's okay for things to get renegotiated.
Things like, maybe I'm going to get a job now. The kids are grown. I'm a wife, I'm sitting home and like, maybe the kids are grown and maybe I'm going to get a job. What else am I going to do? Like that's a renegotiation, but not,
absolutely.
But not, I'm going to go ahead and be in charge now. The wife, the feminine role is going to be like, I'm going to do the masculine stuff, and the masculine guy, you do the feminine stuff. Those are fundamental, complete role reversals. Right. Versus, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do a little bit more of this and a little bit less of that. That's growth. That's That's a relationship, right? That's the evolution of a relationship. And I'm in that place now. You know, all my kids are adults. My youngest is 20, almost 21. So it's like, now what? You know?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean like I'm going to stay home and take care of the house. And if someone wants to do that, certainly they're entitled to it if they both want to do that.
Right.
But it would never work for me. Like, I'm not going to stay home and my wife's going to come here and run the businesses. That's just not going to work.
Not gonna
We don't
happen.
have those skills, right?
Right.
I don't have that skill and she doesn't have these skills. And I think that's what happens. And that's what the feminist dogma, all the things you were talking about, confuses, because it tells her, you go take over the company. You can do it in 5 minutes, you know? And it's like, no, you can't, you know, you just can't. And I think that women are set up for failure in that aspect. There's nothing wrong with being empowered, but there's something definitely wrong with being overpowered or over empowered.
Over empowered is absolutely a huge issue. No doubt.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where like the current mantra of, you know, women are doing all the emotional labor in the household. It's like, okay, fine, whatever. You know, yeah, you've got 3 kids in grammar school. Somebody's keeping track of the calendar. Absolutely. Yeah. Is that a lot to do? Sure. Does it ever shut off? Not really. He's, by the way, earning the money that's paying for the mortgage, that's paying for your minivan, that's taking care of the kids, that's paying for all the utilities, that's paying for the food. Does he get to shut off in the middle of the night when he's thinking like, I don't really want to go to work tomorrow? No. You know, that's his emotional labor, but men don't talk about that. Men don't talk about what they're carrying, and women ignore it. And then they think like, oh, well, it's I'm so put upon, because we're back to now, women's greatest power is her ability to be a victim. Everything gets turned into victimhood. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm doing so much in this relationship. I want out because I don't need another child. Well, let's take a look at what's really going on.
Children
What are the
mortgages.
real roles that are going on here?
Yeah.
You know, and then let's give it that up.
So in one of your content things that you'd posted, you mentioned something that kind of took me back a little bit. You were talking about, I think the gentleman had asked you like what, you know, who loses and what, you know, who gets damaged in these proceedings, if you will. And, you know, the easy answers, of course, everyone says the children, which is absolutely true. The husband, of course. The wife, of course, everybody, society even. But you said even the attorneys.
Oh, yeah.
You know, which kind of threw me off because, you know, respectfully, everybody hates attorneys. Like that's easy.
Dude, I hate attorneys.
Right?
I've got my blacklist.
So, you know, financially, I think we'd agree the only ones who win are the attorneys.
Not as much as you think.
Okay.
Not as much as you think. Most family law attorneys have sizable write-offs at the end of the year. And by sizable, I'm talking 20 to 40% of their billings that they're never going to collect. So
people don't pay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So you get, I mean, isn't that the point of a retainer? My lawyer was real smart.
Sure.
He liked to call it a war chest, and he made sure that was full at all times.
Right. And that works if you've got a client that can keep that war chest full at all times.
Right.
But most of the time you run into the case where that war chest gets depleted and there aren't funds to replenish it. And then a case has to get continued and gets followed up and finally gets finished. And there's an outstanding bill. It's always the hardest one to collect because you didn't really do that much. I don't really like the job you did. I took it in the shorts in this one. Like, you didn't fight as hard for me as you should have. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, that's something. Yeah. But I mean, so financially.
But that's the financial side.
Right.
The emotional side
right.
is, so you went through your divorce and you know what the emotional roller coaster of that was like. Now have less interaction with that, but 20 to 40 of those.
A month, a week, like
At any given point in time.
just ongoing.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, you get one divorce done, but a new one comes in. So it's you 20 to 40 clients at any
So
given
that's
point
like
in time.
a caseload, if you will, like
Yeah.
that you're kind of dealing with on a, wow.
Sure. And you're dealing with your client who's emotional, and sometimes you have to deal directly with their ex, which is not always fun because usually they're borderlines. On my practice.
So if they don't have an attorney. then
Right.
you
I'm
deal
dealing with
directly
your
them.
borderline ex and with her craziness. And if she does have a lawyer, I'm dealing with her lawyer who could be just as crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We've got these crazy ex partes that just pop up out of nowhere. All of a sudden, you're in court tomorrow morning.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Stress, immediate. Like now I got to file documents. I got to get something done. I got to figure out what's really going on. Oh, and by the way, I had 3 other things scheduled for that day that now got pushed.
So when you get an ex parte like notification or whatever, that's like, is it within like 3 days? Is that what it is? Or it's literally like the next day? Yeah.
It's tomorrow.
Wow. And so you have to.
I got to spin on a dime and deal with it today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why the hell did you go into family law?
It's all my partner's fault. We're back to the commitment. When we started off our law practice, I said I wanted to do business law. I wanted to deal with guys like you and captains of industry. You got to remember, I'm a 1980s Reagan Republican, Donald Trump, art of the deal, Gordon Gekko at heart kind of guy. Okay.
Love it. Go ahead.
Sure. We changed a little bit.
I hope there's no but in there. But
there is. We changed a little bit. But so when we started our practice, that's what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And my partner wanted to do family law. I said, ew, gross. That was literally my first reaction.
Yeah.
And he said, it's a good business. People, you'll learn it once. People are always going to fight over their kids. They're always going to fight. Sadly, he is correct. Mm. So I would go to the Rotary Club and the Chamber of Commerce, and I would do my little dog and pony show on business development and corporations and all this fun stuff. Crickets. No one wanted to talk to me. And then I would say, but we also do family law and we handle divorces. I would get bum rushed. There'd be like 3 people coming at me like, here, you got to call me. I got to get this fixed. I got to get out of this marriage. You got to lower my child support. You got to stop the alimony. So I got all this business for my partner, and his calendar got full. Mm. And then it spilled into my calendar. And like 6 months later, I'm a divorce lawyer. I'm like, how did that happen?
Is you think that's pretty common, or do you think a lot of people, I mean, I don't know how someone goes through what I can assume law school was.
Yeah.
With the intent of dealing with what you're dealing with. You know?
Very few people go through law school thinking they're going to be a family lawyer. Many of them go through law school thinking they're going to be constitutional lawyers.
That's noble, right?
Completely noble.
Yeah.
Some of them want to go be criminal defense lawyers. And then there's like the bankruptcy and the tax and the real estate guys. Mm-hmm. And then they but I'll do family law because it's good money. It's easy. Mm. There's lots of it. And it'll fund all the other stuff I want to do. And then they get sucked in, and then they're like a family lawyer.
So on a side thing with that, I was reading, I think we talked a little bit about it. When you were in school, you know, you were studying like Greek and some talk about that a little bit. You know? So
I went to this unique school on the East Coast called St. John's College. It's across the street from the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. And the program is the Great Books program. And basically you read the great books, which we start with Homer and Plato, and we go all the way through to essentially modern times with science and math. And the conversation...
To the art of the deal.
Let's not go that far. We're not going to go that far. And the way in which you learn is you would read a text, and then you would sit around a table with like 12 other people and a professor, and you would have an opening question. You would talk. So there's a lot of conversation. So we create a lot of lawyers out of St. John's College to begin with. But it was this very small school. My graduating class, I think, was 85 people. So you knew everybody. Mm-hmm. And everybody knew everything that was going on. It was very gossipy. But it was great because you really got connected with people. It was a real sense of community in a way that I think most people don't have at bigger universities. And the nice thing about St. John's is because everybody from like 1927, I think is when they switched over to the new program, from then forward has read effectively 90% of the same books because it's all classics.
Right. It's like there's a new one coming out. Right.
Right. Exactly. There might be a new translation, but other than that. And so basically any St. John's graduate can talk to any other St. John's graduate and have a majority of their foundation of their education in common, which is really unique and very fun.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, but at that time, was law already the path?
No, not even. No, I was full on Gordon Gekkoing, man. I had like the horizontal striped shirt, and like I wanted to be Gordon Gekko.
Got it.
You know, that was, you know, this was back when I'm going to be a little bit snarky here. Some people's Lord and Savior, Donald Trump, had more of a reputation for being a businessman.
Right. For sure. Yeah. I mean, he was
Yes.
definitely that up to 15 years ago, really apprentice time basically is when
Right.
that changed. But
Right.
he's definitely always been that and,
Yeah.
and still is, frankly. But anywho, so let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now
Sure.
and hopefully what you can offer, because I think our audience is a lot of business people, a lot of hopefully I think a lot of ambitious entrepreneurial type people who are out building things, and also people who probably want to get married or are married. And how do they navigate that? How can you help them? This is some stuff for people even before they get married. They should probably be reading this stuff, correct?
Absolutely.
So how would someone get in touch with you? How would they,
So the best way is to go to dadslawschool.com and you'll find us on the website. The other great way is through my TikToks and my Instagrams and my YouTube channel. It's all at dads, DADS, law, LAW, school, SCHOOL. It's on all the channels. And I've got all kinds of various TikToks there to help people who are trying to figure out what's going on in the world of family law and how do I handle this stuff. And if you're a business person who's developed a company and you're trying to figure out, like, I need to go through a divorce, what's it going to cost me? How do I handle this? Feel free to reach out. We can definitely help you with that. If you're going through a custody battle and you're burned out, you're paying too much for your lawyers, and you don't know anything about what's going on in court, Dad's Law School is the place to learn and to get the help you need, because if you're going to represent yourself in family court, you need to have some tools. You need to be able to go in and argue to the judge. You need to be able to use exhibits and get those admitted so the judge can rely on them. You need to be able to understand what's happening and be able to make objections to keep the other side's evidence out. All of that we teach at dadslawschool.com. We've got weekly group coaching for the dads in our VIP program. So for 2 hours every week, dads are coming in and they're asking questions on Zoom. So we've got dads literally from across the planet. I've got Australia, Canada, South Africa, Brazil, the UK, all of whom are facing the same problems, because family law and the domestic violence laws and the craziness of what's going on with kids these days, it's a global issue. And you're not alone if you're a dad who's facing this stuff. And that's what we offer at Dad's Law School in our VIP program, is that community to help you get through this and to get the tools you need.
Great. And on that, there's you got a couple of books out there. You have also videos. What else do you have on there? What kind of content do you have?
So we have my 2 books, Dad's Child Custody Action Plan and Dad's Child Support Action Plan, which are designed to give you the tools you need. And they're easy reads. And there's tools in there, like in my Child Custody Action Plan, I have the kid inventory. And the kid inventory is literally 123 questions of stuff that you need to tell the judge. You're not going to know all 123. But if you know 40 of them and you can tell the judge, this is what I know about my kid, you're counteracting the narrative that mom's putting out that you're disengaged, don't know anything about the kids, can't handle them. That's why this is important material. And we have video courses at Dad's Law School that help you understand how to handle yourself in court. And the reason they're important as video is so that you can go at your own pace. They're 5 to 10 minute videos designed so that you can have the opportunity to go back, rewatch it. If you don't understand something, decide to send me a quick email through the community. We'll get your questions answered.
Great. Appreciate all that. And guys, from my perspective, being a veteran myself, of going through a lot of these things and coming out the other side, this information is huge, because you go in there, you think, hey, I love my kids, I'm good to my kids, I've never done anything bad to my wife, like I'm going to be okay. And more times than not, that's not the case. You have to understand what you're up against. But beyond that, on this show, we talk about grit, we talk about just having guts and perseverance in business and in life. This is when you need to have grit and guts and perseverance. Do not be a bitch. Go in there and fight for your children. Your children need you. They need you as much or more than they need their mother. And you might have a great wife. She may be a great mother to the kids, but they need dad in their life.
Yeah.
Do something like this, or hire someone like Dave to represent you, and go in there and be proud and fight for what's right, because your children's future depends on it. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe. And thanks, Dave, for coming out. And guys, we'll see you on the next one.